Hi y'all, Billy here. Welcome to the Messy Studio. If you've been here before, welcome back. If it's your first time, well, I'm glad you came. I've had a request recently to show a little more detail on how I do some of my snowmen. So that's what this video is going to be about. I re-rigged my articulating lamp arm that I had hanging because it kept hitting me in the head and falling on me. I added this little GoPro clone. I don't know if it's going to film well or not. We're just going to have to wait and see. But it'll give you a direct view from above over what I'm doing so that I can show you something, or show you a little better maybe. Give you a different vantage point. So let's get to filming and we'll see what happens. Now, this blank I'm going to get 2 hats out of. Let's rough it out. Thought I'd check that. And that's why you use a safety center. This is a piece of, I was told it was hackberry. Oh, while I'm at it, I was teaching a friend yesterday. He's a longtime woodworker, carpenter, and cabinet builder, but he's wanting to get into turning. So I gave him my old 10-inch Delta MIDI lathe and gave him some pointers, gave him some time on the lathe, and taught him a few things. The first thing we attacked was, of course, the roughing gouge and spindles. Spindles are easier to turn than bowls. And when I was teaching him, I said, when you approach the tool, the piece with your tool, with a roughing gouge, never approach it this way. Always start with your cutting edge, and then ride the bevel, bring it down to your cut, and then start cutting. It's really not hard. And once you've done it for a while, you learn where that bevel is, and then you can simply make your cut. Now, one of the things he told me when I said that, I told him how to approach the piece. He said, you know, he said, I've turned before in shop class, and they told us completely different. They taught us to rough like this. And I said, if you approach the tool like this, you're going to have a mess. It's going to tear out. It's going to stall on you. You can do all kinds of things. Knock bad chunks off. It's not good. So, you want to make sure you approach it correctly. We're not quite round yet, so let's keep going. Still not quite round, but once it's close, I like Old Trusty. I love my skew. Of course, I'm not as good as Steve Jones. He's a production turner. He should be. Man's a beast. And I'm certainly no Alan Lacy. finished cut. That should left us a good edge. Yeah, still a little bit of tear out here. Not sure why. But we're down good enough. So, square this end off a little bit. Make me a small tenon so I can chuck it up later. This will be the bottom of the first hat. That'll be the brim. Well, let's just measure. So the millimeter side is up, so it's just as easy to use. 12 and a half, let's go 6 1/4. So that'll be the bottom, the top of this hat, bottom of that one. Forgot what I was doing. I hate it when I do that. Now what I'm going to do is establish the thickness for the bottom of the hat. I've already got my calipers set up, so I'll know when I get close, and I'm not close. Well, I'm getting close there. Oh yeah, I almost went too small on both of them. We'll see. Now it's time to shape the hat. See, I sharpened my tool. It makes a big difference. I don't like my hats on my snowman to go straight up. So I give them a little shape. They can't all be the same shape, but I like that Mad Hatter kind of look. It's personal preference. I might flatten that out a little bit. Not quite round enough there, but fix that real quick. That is close enough for the girls I run with. While I was editing this, I realized something. A smart man would have started with the brims to my right from what you're looking at on camera. Put the brim down there so I could turn the hollow, or actually the concave section of the hat to fit on the round head. Some people will sand the top of the snowman head flat and then leave the bottom of the hat flat and glue that on. I don't do it that way. I actually turn a concave section inside the hat to match the curvature of the snowman's head, and then I glue it that way. I get a better glue surface, and I just think it looks better because it sits down on the head and it looks a little more natural. So from now on, when I turn these hats, I will start with the brim to my right, toward the tailstock, hollow it out. That way when I part it off, I've got a near finished hat. All I have to do is sand the top and then do the second hat the same way, part it off and finish the top. That's the smart way to do it. I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I was just trying to get through this order of snowmen. So forgive my little stupidity. Try to do it the way I'm telling you, not the way that I'm showing. Almost finished shaping this. I've got a little ridge right here. Okay, got it chucked up. Do one final pass up here at the top of the hat, just to make sure everything's still concentric. Smooth this off and take the top off with a detail gouge. Nice clean cut. Now the part everybody loves. Freshen this up just a little. I thought I got the dimple from the tailstock out, but apparently I didn't. Add some shellac sanding sealer. Or shellac as sanding sealer. I've seen others try it. I've never used this. I've used shellac in friction polish, but I've never used it as a sanding sealer before. I've seen some others doing it, especially when I'm going to use lacquer in the end. I typically use a lacquer sanding sealer. And to tell you the truth, they both work or seem to work about the same, which is good. They both work well. The only difference is I find that the lacquer sanding sealer dries a whole lot quicker. And if you have any nitrocellulose sanding sealer, that's even faster. It's dry enough to part off. Alright, because I'm going to concave this once I get in about as far as that is, I'm going to start angling to give me a wider curve, because I've got to hollow the inside of the head out to a round anyway. Slow it down and finish the cut. And there you have it. Set this one aside. finish this one. Like I said, a friend of mine said this was hackberry. I've never turned hackberry before. It's nice, it's hard, it's dense, but man, it puts off some funky shavings. All wads up in a curl. Here you see some snowman blanks. You notice they're all two-tier, or two levels, two balls. Up until last fall, I had always turned my snowman with 3 tiers. But that takes a lot more time, about twice as much time, because you've got to make sure that the proportions are right. So I can actually turn one of the 2-tier snowman bodies in about half the time it takes me to turn one of the 3 tiers like you see here that I made for my wife. The 3 tiers look good, but the 2 tiers look just as well, I think, and they seem to sell well. And time is money in this line of work, or craft, or business, or whatever you want to call it. So if I can save half the time turning a 2-tier and get about the same money for them, it makes it all worth it. The rest of the pictures shown just illustrate the kinds of things that you can do in decorating your snowmen. I've seen a lot of people turn them left plain. When I first started doing snowmen several years ago, I left all of mine plain. But I've started decorating them a little bit. I don't consider myself all that artistic. That's why I don't draw the faces on. I found a source for the little Google eyes that I use, and I turned my own noses using, actually it's just 1/8" bamboo skewer that I roughly shape on my oscillating spindle sander, and then I dye them orange with a orange Sharpie. The arms I simply get from my oak trees in my front yard. The rest of the materials you can find, all over the place. Making scarves or ribbons. I bought some feathers. I found a source for some feathers I use for the hat, and some faux suede strap that I use for the hat bands. I even made the dog tags for this one by taking a beer can and sanding both sides of it good, laminating the once painted side together with super glue, and then I cut the dog tags out with a pair of scissors. I stripped down some small gauge wire, and that's what I used for the necklace for the dog tags. Your imagination is your only limitation. So hopefully this will help some of you if you want to try to do things like this. Just use your imagination. You don't have to be the most artistic. A little thought is all it takes. And then I had an idea to make a Santa snowman, just because I like Santas, and I had an extra body that was looking a little bit fat. and I didn't want to make the hat straight up and pointed. I wanted to do something a little bit different. So what I did was angle cut a piece of log that I normally would use for the hat, a little piece of a limb, and glued it back together with the cardboard in between so I'd be able to easily separate it once I got the cone shape turned. And then I turned the top. After I got it turned, I cut it apart or chiseled it apart and sanded the paper off of both sides and turned the top 180 degrees so it cocked the hat sideways. And that's what you're looking at here. And then I just finished the snowman up by dyeing the hat and the suit red. I found a small buckle at Hobby Lobby. I found the beard material also at the same place. I used black ribbon for the belt, cotton for the ruff around the top of the hat and around the bottom of the coat. And I used a small white pom-pom that I found at a craft store for the end of the hat. I even made the glasses out of some 18 gauge wire that I had laying around. Then I made the bag for Santa's toys out of some red material that I had. It's just red cotton. And I stuffed it with styrofoam peanuts. Like I said, your imagination is your only limitation. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like what you're seeing, what I'm doing, please like and subscribe. If you have suggestions or comments or things that you might want to see down the pipe, let me know. I'll try to help any way I can. Thanks again. Come back and see us.